Hello everyone, and welcome to my video. If you enjoyed the content, please hit the like button. And to help us grow and create better content, you can subscribe to us. Now, everyone who subscribes, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Let's get to the video. In the heart of Manhattan, surrounded by the relentless rhythm of one of the world's most restless cities, a silver giant rises from Lexington Avenue and 53rd Street. To the casual observer, it's just another skyscraper in New York's concrete forest. But behind its shimmering aluminum facade, hidden beneath its iconic slanted roof and elevated structure, lies one of the most chilling secrets in modern engineering history, a story of genius, oversight, and the narrow escape from catastrophe that could have rewritten the skyline of New York forever. This is the story of the Citicorp Center, later renamed the Citigroup Center, and the night an engineer realized his masterpiece could collapse and potentially kill tens of thousands of people. The tale begins in the early 1970s, an era of architectural ambition. Manhattan was a battleground of steel and glass. Corporations raced to build monuments to their success, towers that pierced the clouds as symbols of modern power. Citicorp, one of the largest banks in America, wanted its own statement, a tower unlike any other. They envisioned a structure that would stand out not only in height but in innovation. The site they chose, however, presented a peculiar problem. On the corner of Lexington Avenue stood St. Peter's Lutheran Church, a small but historic building that refused to move. The congregation agreed to sell the land only if the church could remain on site, untouched. Most corporations would have walked away. But Citicorp's leadership saw an opportunity for a bold architectural challenge. Enter architect Hugh Stubbins and structural engineer William Lemaitre. Together, they would create something daring, something visionary, a skyscraper that would hover above the ground, supported not by columns at its corners, but by massive steel stilts placed at the center of each side. The church would remain below, tucked safely under the northeast corner of the tower, while the building itself appeared to float above the city. Construction began in 1974, and the design quickly became an icon of modernism. The tower's striking appearance, with its reflective cladding and unique base, made it a marvel of the skyline. Newspapers praised it as engineering elegance, and the building won awards for its innovation. By 1977, the Citicorp Center opened its doors, 59 stories tall, a testament to human ingenuity. But beneath the triumph lay a flaw so subtle that even its creators didn't see it, a flaw that would remain invisible until one restless night, a year later. William Lemaitre was a man known for precision. A Harvard-educated structural engineer, he had worked on numerous high-profile projects. Yet one summer night in 1978, he received a phone call that would haunt him. On the other end was a student from Princeton University who had been studying the Citicorp building for a class project. The student had a question about the building's unusual column placement and how it handled certain wind patterns, specifically, quartering winds that strike the building diagonally. Lemaitre, confident in his design, began to explain. The building was designed to withstand winds from any direction, he said. But after hanging up, something bothered him. He couldn't shake the student's question. What if the student was right? What if the building's diagonal supports were more vulnerable than he had assumed? He decided to revisit his calculations. Late into the night, surrounded by blueprints and slide rules, Lemaitre began to re-examine the load patterns. The Citicorp Center was supported by a unique chevron bracing system, giant V-shaped steel braces that distributed the weight of the tower through its sides and into the mid-edge columns. It was a clever solution, allowing the base of the building to remain open for the church. But as Le Mesurier worked through the math, a realization slowly chilled his blood. His original wind calculations had only considered wind hitting the building from the 4 cardinal directions: north, south, east, and west. But diagonal, or quartering winds, struck the tower differently, applying forces not evenly distributed across the frame. Under those conditions, the stresses on the joints, particularly at the chevron braces, were much higher than he had ever anticipated. In theory, the tower could withstand winds up to a certain threshold. But if a strong enough storm hit from the right direction, the entire structure could begin to fail. Le Mesurier tried to reassure himself. Surely, the steel joints bolted and welded could handle it. But when he called the construction company to confirm, he received devastating news. The joints weren't welded as had specified. They were bolted. Bolts, though strong, aren't nearly as resilient under the kind of lateral stress that high winds produce. The room went quiet. The weight of that discovery pressed down like the very building he had designed. He began to run new simulations. One by one, they returned with the same answer. Under certain storm conditions, the Citicorp Center could collapse. Not bend. Not merely sustain damage. Collapse, toppling into Midtown Manhattan, a 900-foot skyscraper crashing through one of the most densely populated areas in the world. At the time, New York's weather records showed that winds of that strength, around 75 miles per hour, were rare but not impossible. In fact, a hurricane or tropical storm passing through the city could easily reach that speed. Le Mesurier faced a moral dilemma that few engineers ever experience. He could stay silent, protect his career, and hope that no such storm ever came. Or he could come forward, confess the potential flaw, and risk professional ruin. He chose the latter. Quietly, without alerting the public, Le Mesurier contacted Citicorp's leadership. What followed was one of the most secretive engineering operations in modern history. Citicorp executives, fearing mass panic, worked with city officials to develop an emergency repair plan, all in absolute secrecy. The task was enormous. Thousands of steel joints in the building needed reinforcement. And it had to be done without drawing public attention. If word got out that a skyscraper in Midtown Manhattan was at risk of collapse, chaos could engulf the city. So, they acted under cover of darkness. Each night, after office workers left and the city's lights dimmed, crews climbed into the steel bones of the tower. Welders worked tirelessly through the night, installing 2-inch thick steel plates over every critical joint. The noise was muffled. Windows were covered. Security was tight. By sunrise, the welders would disappear, and the building's occupants returned, unaware that they were walking above a potential disaster. All the while, Le Mesurier lived in silent dread. During the repair months, meteorologists began tracking Hurricane Ella as it churned up the Atlantic coast, heading directly toward New York. Had Ella made landfall, the Citicorp Center might not have survived. The storm, by sheer luck, turned eastward, missing the city. It was as though fate had given Le Mesurier a chance to make things right. By the end of that summer, after weeks of sleepless nights and secret repairs, the building was finally secure. The reinforcement work had strengthened the structure far beyond its original safety margins. The Citicorp Center was no longer a ticking time bomb. Only a handful of people knew what had truly happened: engineers, executives, and a few city officials. The story remained classified for nearly 2 decades. Even the building's tenants never knew they had spent months working inside a skyscraper that might have collapsed in a storm. It wasn't until 1995 that the truth began to surface, when journalist Joe Morgenstern uncovered the story and published it in The New Yorker. The world was stunned. Engineers called it one of the greatest near misses in history. Architecture schools began teaching it as a case study in professional ethics. William Le Mesurier, though initially shaken, was later praised for his honesty. By coming forward, he had likely saved countless lives. His decision became a moral benchmark for the engineering community, proof that integrity, even when it threatens reputation, can avert disaster. Today, the Citicorp Center, renamed the Citigroup Center, still stands tall in Midtown Manhattan, its angled roof gleaming in the sunlight, its silhouette unmistakable against the New York skyline. Few passers-by realize that beneath that polished exterior lies a reinforced skeleton born from panic, courage, and redemption. The building's design remains an engineering marvel and a lesson carved into steel. Every skyscraper, every bridge, every architectural masterpiece carries within it a silent dialogue between ambition and risk. For the Citicorp Center, that dialogue nearly turned tragic. But in the end, it became something else, a symbol of humility in an age of hubris. Le Mesurier himself would later reflect on those tense nights, admitting that the ordeal changed him. "You can never hide from the math," he once said. "It always tells the truth." That truth, nearly lost to oversight, became a warning that echoes through every blueprint drawn since. The Citicorp Center story is not just about one building. It's about the fragile line between brilliance and catastrophe, and the courage it takes to face the consequences of one's own creation. As the city moves beneath it, the tower stands silent, steady, and stronger than ever, a testament to the night an engineer's conscience saved Manhattan from disaster.